Thank you for staying with us. People work extremely hard to acquire assets, grow their wealth, and build businesses and empires. With all that kind of hard work, one would expect that they would channel the same kind of energy, time, and resources into having a structure that will cater for these assets and then ensure seamless transfer to future generations. But it seems that many of us do not pay attention to all of this. That's why we're bringing you this segment today to talk about what we should be paying attention to when we have made all the effort to build our assets. Mutiat Olatunji is the private trust specialist from FBNQuest Trustees. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us this morning. You say estate planning. When I first got the lineup for today's program and I saw estate planning, I thought to myself, oh, is this person an architect or a builder, or what kind of estate is she going to come and tell us how to plan?
Oh, are they coming to our estate?
They're coming to our estate. Apparently, nothing to do with that at all.
Nothing at all.
So, estate planning, what are you talking about?
Okay, so like you said, the misconception that a lot of people have when they hear estate is that, oh, you're talking about development, buying a land, but that is not what estate planning is. So in describing what estate planning is, let me try to paint a picture. I know that growing up, even now, we've seen friends, neighbors, uncles, aunties pass on, and then the next thing is that people are scrambling. I want this one. Daddy wanted to give me this. I'm supposed to take this. Or you even have friends or your kids have classmates and they'll just come and say one day that, Mommy, do you know so person doesn't come to school again because his daddy has passed and they can no longer afford tuition? We see these things on a daily basis. These are things that we can relate to. That is what happens when you do not have an estate plan in place. Now, so what is estate planning? There's estate and there's planning. Estate is all the assets that you own. So liquid and non-liquid assets. Your liquid assets, money is in your bank, pension, insurance that you've taken up, investments, shares and stock. Those are your liquid assets. Your non-liquid assets now is the real estate, which is just a portion of estate planning. Then that is defining estate. Then what is planning? Planning is that conscious effort that you take to ensure that, yes, I've worked hard for all these assets. How do I collate all these assets? We all have things scattered here and there. Maybe your loved ones, your children, your beneficiaries don't even know about one investment or one asset somewhere. So planning is that conscious effort that we need to take as individuals to ensure that all our assets are properly documented, they are listed. We decide who the beneficiaries of this asset is or who should be, and then when do we want them to have access to the property or to the assets, and how do we want them to access it.
So when we're thinking about estate planning, what are the things that we should consider?
Okay, so the first thing to consider is your assets. People have things that they don't consider or see as an asset. Someone will tell you, but I just have little funds in my bank. It's really nothing. I have a flat screen TV. The truth is that I was involved in a case where two people were fighting over a 32-inch black and white TV. It really did happen here in Nigeria. Yes.
Is it the same size of 32 inches that we all know?
Yes, the same size.
Or is that the Lilliputian side?
No, the same 32-inch black and white TV. The owner of that TV didn't consider it as an asset. But the people that are fighting see it as an asset. People fight over so many things. Things that we might consider ridiculous, but in reality, it is not ridiculous.
Please go ahead.
So when you see that one, you realize that you actually do have a whole lot of things that are assets. People own phones. Phones worth millions. It's not an asset to you, but to someone that wants that phone or wants to inherit or benefit from that phone, it is an asset. Women have jewelries. All of these things are assets. So the first thing is to collate all your assets. When you collate your assets, you now determine who are the beneficiaries of this asset. During my lifetime, I am the first and I'm the primary beneficiary. But if anything happens to me at all, who do I want to give my phone to? Who do I want to get my pension? Who do I want to get my house? Who do I even want to get my car?
I don't care who gets it.
I'm wondering.
In fact, a lawyer once told me that even my wearing apparel,
yes, are your assets. Exactly.
Yes.
This one.
Yes. Yes.
But you know that not caring is what creates the chaos. Because currently in Lagos, there are 2 professors that have been in court for a while now because they cannot agree on how to distribute or share the asset that their mom left behind.
Maybe because they have too much knowledge. But, you know, so when setting up an asset, or rather setting up an estate plan, what are the things to consider?
So, like I said, you have to consider your asset, you have to consider your beneficiary, but most importantly, you need to speak to a professional. Because people leave things to chance. People try to do it themselves.
Professionals like yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll come back to that one. We'll show us your association membership. How does that differ from pensions and a will?
Okay. So a will is an estate planning instrument. When you're planning your estate, there are 2 instruments you can use. You can use a will and you can use a trust. The will is what everybody knows about. Let me write a will, let me write a will. But there's another instrument called a trust.
What's the difference?
So a will takes effect after the demise of a person.
Yep.
Your will can come into effect while you're still alive.
Yep.
A trust can take effect during your lifetime. So you are the primary beneficiary. You are the settler of the trust. You see it work. So if, for example, you have people on a monthly basis that you pay allowances or you give stuff, you can make them beneficiaries of your trust. So the trust takes that responsibility away from you and pays directly to them, provided your trust is funded. Now, what also happens is that if anything happens to you, they have seamless access to that funds. So unlike the will that needs to be read and all of that, the trust just continues seamlessly. So that is a major difference. Again, there are some assets that cannot go into your trust. So he had mentioned pension. The current law in Nigeria is that before you can access a person's pension, you must get a grant of probate or a letter of administration. So your pension cannot go into your trust, but your pension can stay in your will. Your personal accounts as well will stay in your will. But other liquid assets, investments, you can even actively purchase properties in the name of your trust. So it is no longer in your name, it is owned by a trust. So it is distinct and different from you.
So how can the choice between a will and a trust, how can that depend on the beneficiaries and their unique needs?
Okay, so after you've collated your assets, you look at your class of beneficiaries. If you have kids that are minors and still in school, you ask yourself that if I just mention everything I have in my will, the transitioning period between when my will is ready, if anything happens to me, and grant of probate is obtained, what happens to them? What becomes of their education? In that instance, you can say, you know what, I'm going to set up an educational trust for my children where there's adequate fund. If anything happens to me, now that I'm even still alive, once my trust is funded, I send the bill to FBNQuest trustees, they settle it, and they just send me evidence of payment. And that also continues if anything happens to you. If you also have special needs children, there's going to be a time gap again between when your will is read and when probate is gotten. What happens to their needs? There are people that are dependent on you. You can decide to take care of all of those people in your trusts.
So, well, your mouth is sweeting now, but are there specific, excuse me, specific circumstances where one instrument, can be used over the other?
What we typically advise at FBNQuest trustees is that you have both instruments, because both instruments complement each other.
As a will and a trust.
Yes, the will and the trust, they complement each other at every point in time. So again, your trust comes into effect during your lifetime. Everybody continues to enjoy whether or not you are there. Your will, there are certain things. So your asset class, your beneficiaries will determine which tool to use. But what we advise is that you use both tools.
Can FBNQuest help towards a will?
Yes.
How?
Okay, so at FBNQuest trustees, we have lawyers.
Oh, really? You do?
Yes.
I see.
We have lawyers at FBNQuest trustees.
Why would you have lawyers? Just kidding.
And they are the ones in charge of the drafting, because even for the trust, there's a trust deed. That is the document that governs the agreement between both parties. You list out what you, the settler, want us, the trustees, to do, and you also list out the details of your beneficiaries. So we help in drafting the will. We also help in structuring and also advising you on how best to structure and plan your estate.
So how does anyone begin the process of setting up an estate plan?
Okay, so setting up an estate plan is very simple. You can reach out to us on all social media platforms at FBNQuest trustees. You can also check our website for reading materials.
What's your website?
legacyseries.fbnquest.com. So you have all the information you need about estate planning.
Legacy savings.
Legacy series.
Legacy series.
Yes.
Okay.
.fbnquest.com.
Okay. Okay. What am I going to find there?
So you find all reading materials. You can also drop your contact details. We'll reach out to you. Again, you can call us on 080.
We'll come to that one. This is your website.
Yes, that is it.
Okay.
So
where do I go?
Build a legacy that lasts.
About us, contact us.
Yes, get started.
Okay. So this is where you explain estate planning.
Yes.
And everything.
Yes.
Okay. And you also talked about the phone. Is there a place where we can get a form on this website?
Yes, so at the end of the website, there's a place where you can fill in your details and an expert will reach out to you almost immediately.
Okay. All right. I hope it's not the expert we're looking at on the screen right now, but you also talked about the phone number.
Yes, so the phone number is 080-54-000. That's 000-299.
Again?
080-54-000-299.
Which hours of the day can we call this number?
Working hours, both weekday and weekend, so anytime from 8 to 5.
Most people don't work on weekends. Forget that I'm here.
So weekdays and weekends between 9 and 5, you can reach us on that number. You can also drop a WhatsApp message for us on that number.
Okay.
What else did I want to ask you? Now, back to the will and the trust.
Okay.
You said you would advise a client to have both.
Yes.
Why?
Okay. So your will, again, comes into effect after your lifetime. And I'm going to give us a very practical example of why you should have a will and why you should have a trust. When Michael Jackson passed, he had a trust in place. That was what everybody knew he had. As at that point, people thought maybe he was bankrupt, he didn't have money. But guess what? His trust was well-funded. His trust was well-funded, and he also ensured that all the royalties that were going to come to him after his lifetime was going to be contained in his trust. So all the things that he could take outside the ambit of his will, he put everything in his trust and he secured those assets. Until today, his beneficiaries are still getting benefit from all the things that he has worked for. His will contained just his bank accounts, little things that are very minimal and minor. Again, your will is a public document. So the moment a person passes, it becomes public. If you go on the internet and Google the will of some top lawyers or top personalities that have passed, you can see all the details there. So I can see what he gave his first child or what she gave her second child, and I can decide to pray on them. But a trust is private and confidential. It is private to the extent that if you don't want two beneficiaries to know what they are getting, except they tell each other, the next person would not know. Your asset is also protected when you set up a trust. So we say use both instruments, and we are here to help you plan your inheritance without hassles.
I like this. I like the sound of that one.
Which one?
The trust.
Well, I was going to ask her about trusts. I can see on your website there are 3 different trusts. Explain.
Okay,
there's family trust, there's children education trust, there's living trust. Is there a dead trust?
No, there's no dead trust.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Okay, so you've seen 3, but you can even have as many types of trust as you want. I can decide that I want to set up a property purchase trust, and all I'm doing is putting money aside, knowing that that fund is going to be invested towards purchasing a property. So I can set up an educational trust saying that I want to secure the education and the future of my children, and this trust is just for their education. The good thing again about a trust is that all the funds, all the liquid assets that you put in your trust, they are invested. So it earns a return on investment. So the funds don't just lie there, they continue to grow. Then the family trust, I can say, my family is accosted to a certain lifestyle. We travel every vacation. There are certain things I buy them on an annual basis. I want that to continue. So I'm setting aside funds for that purpose to ensure that now that I'm alive, we'll all enjoy it together. We'll all go on vacation together, funded by the trust or sponsored by the trust. And even when I am no longer in the picture, they can continue to live their lifestyle.
So someone who wants to continue to go on a cruise can also plan it?
Yes.
Okay. I see also on your website, and now this is now your textbook, Islamic estate planning. How is it different from estate planning?
Okay. So there's the conventional estate planning and there's the Islamic estate planning. The basic and the foundation is the same. ensure that your assets are tidied up. So under Islamic law, there are perimeters for how your assets should be distributed. For example, for Muslims, the Quran already stipulates how your assets should be distributed under chapter 4. It states that 1/3 goes to this person, 1/4 goes to... However, the mistake people make is that, how do we even distribute what you've not collated, what you've not listed? So yes, Islam already provides a blueprint of how things should be distributed, but then you must still have an al-wasiya, which is a will under Islamic law. So we have both tools on the conventional and all the Islamic parts, but the focus is the same. Ensure that you tidy up your assets, ensure that you list your beneficiaries, and ensure that you don't leave chaos when you pass on.
How about Christian estate planning?
So that's where you have the conventional. So that's typically the conventional estate planning, which is the wills and the trusts.
Okay. Now, generally, what are the misunderstandings or misconceptions that people have about this estate planning thing?
Okay, number one is when you talk to people about estate planning, you ask, do you want to kill me? Why do you want me to have a will? Why are you telling me to set up a trust? Are you planning to kill me? But the truth is, nobody is planning to kill you. We're just saying, put your house in order, tidy up your affairs, and ensure that you do not leave chaos. Number two is that they say, I brought up all my children very well. I just one husband, one wife. There's no chaos. They've grown up in love and harmony. We've seen an instance whereby one man, one wife, 4 children that are top in their profession are still fighting over their father's assets. They were all well brought up. So you only know your children.
They were all well off.
Yes, they are doing very well.
And they were still fighting for...
Yes, and the dispute has gone from one generation to the next generation. Yes. There's an estate that's been in court for over 5 decades now. And the worst part is that no beneficiary is going to be able to get anything. If you have a tenant that's been living in any of those houses, the tenant has become landlord himself.
They are living for free.
And you see state government acquiring some of these properties because miscreants are now staying in those properties. So that's what happened when you fail to have an estate plan in place.
That's number 2. Number 3.
So number 3, now to women. Women assume that they don't need to have an estate plan. This is peculiar to us. That my husband has an estate plan, my husband has sorted me out. What we fail to realize is that when something goes wrong, women are the greatest casualty. We are the ones that suffer the most. So what we tell people is that as a woman, have an estate plan and also ensure that your spouse or your loved ones or anybody that is taking care of you also has an estate plan that caters to you, so that family members don't just come and turn your life upside down, because we see it happen on a daily basis. So for women, please plan your estate.
But suppose the woman doesn't have anything to plan. Again, I'm living with my husband. It's my husband's house. So what am I going to write a will or get it put in a trust?
You have monies in your account. You have investments.
My housekeeping allowance.
Yes, but you save from it. I know we women, we are very prudent. No matter how you still save something from it. You still have people that out of that little you save, you send to on a daily basis, on a monthly basis.
Okay, I have 500,000 naira in my account. So I should go and write a will because of...
Put it in a trust and earn return on investment, and your beneficiaries are named.
I'm sure that's the reason why most women don't write wills. Because they believe they have nothing to put in a will.
But even if you don't have anything to put in a will, you need to ensure that your husband has an estate plan that protects you. Because then it becomes double jeopardy.
But he won't tell me what he's got in his will.
He won't tell you, but he has a will, and you know your spouse, you know your husband. You believe that he'll protect you, and he'll protect your children, most especially the children.
I'm assuming that there's a lot of assumption going on right here.
The man will not tell his wife what is written in his will.
When 2 women are fighting over money matter in the studio. Okay, well, we can only, wish you, well about this thing. But, okay, so you've told us some of the reasons, but can you also tell us maybe in a few words, what are some of the upsides to it? What are some of the benefits that accrue to the investor while still alive and when they pass?
Okay, so the benefit is that, number 1, if you decide to use a trust, you see it work during your lifetime, you are able to make changes. You say, okay, let's give this thing a trial. Let me send my school invoice to you. Let me see how you pay it. Let me see how you manage all of this asset. Let me see how you administer this asset. Then you can make changes to your trust. That's an upside to having it. Number 2 is that your monies just don't lie fallow in the bank. When you put it in a trust, it earns return on investment. Again, another benefit is because those monies are in the trust and not in your will, your beneficiaries have seamless access to it. When we speak estate planning, one thing that is important is, what are your objectives? What do you intend to achieve with this plan? What assets do you have? And what are your aspirations for your beneficiaries? All of these things will guide you in ensuring that you have an estate plan in place. Because when you think of your assets and you think of your beneficiaries and you think of what your intentions are, you realize that not having an estate plan is actually going to be very chaotic. And having an estate plan with FBNQuest trustees is the best.
Okay. She could go on and on, but we better close.
Okay, thank you very much. Mutiat Olatunji, Private Trust Specialist, FBNQuest Trustees. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with the home stretch.